Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons, or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as Mr. Most Days Off, and this week I am in the holiday spirit. It's very close to Valentine's Day as we record this, and it'll probably be just about St. Patrick's Day by the time it releases, but I'm in the Christmas spirit today, and celebrating with me, the elf to my Santa, your co-host with the most, Richie the Whiz Kid. How you doing today, Rich?
Wait, I thought the Simpsons were celebrating my birthday in this episode. Is that not what's going on?
That holiday is actually even closer. Like, that one might be closer to when this one releases than St. Patrick's Day. St. Valentine's Day. Technically accurate, just weird sounding.
Technically accurate. Yeah. But yeah, we got to get all holly and jolly today. It's the time of year, I guess you could say. We got some stuff we got to talk about in this one, though. Some behind the scenes stuff, maybe with some errors on this one, but we'll get into that. Let me throw it back to you. The man, the myth, the yellow sweater in human form. It is Miles.
I love that so much. Bart, put that yellow sweater down. Speaking of behind the scenes, Richie, we have the return of something special today. Something that we have not had on this podcast in a few weeks now.
I don't want to jinx it.
Have behind-the-scenes commentary with the Simpsons staff. In fact, this one had a pretty large crowd. It had Nancy Cartwright, who I just like to casually mention does follow me on Twitter, so, you know, it makes my heart warm up every time I see that little follows you on her name. There's also Yardley Smith, who doesn't follow me yet, but fingers crossed there, Yardley. Matt Groening was on this one, as was George Meyer, Mike Scully, which is a name I want you to remember, Bob Anderson, and the writer of this episode, Ron Haig, all on the commentary track for this episode. And with that said, with all of those wonderful, talented people, don't really have a whole lot of information to talk about, to be completely honest. There are a few things that we'll speak on, but for the most part, not a ton of information was actually provided on the commentary, but it was fun, just especially I think when you get the voice actors involved more. They have a lot more like nostalgia for the episode as opposed to behind the scenes facts about the episode, so it's still an entertaining commentary, just in a completely different way.
I like how you nonchalantly tried to name drop Nancy Cartwright there.
Was I nonchalant about it? Because I was trying to be pretty fucking blatant.
No, not at all.
I really do get giddy every time I see that she follows me, and sometimes I'm like, did she hit that on accident? But we are talking about Miracle on Evergreen Terrace today, which this episode in itself is actually, the title in itself is already a Christmas reference to the movie Miracle on 34th Street. And also, this episode, like I mentioned, it was actually written by Ron Haig, who claims that he was supposed to pitch an idea for an episode, and he had absolutely nothing. And he was driving into work the day he was supposed to pitch it, and it was the holiday season, and this just kind of like came upon him all in one like swift motion. And essentially it more or less was the idea of It's a Wonderful Life, but in reverse.
Interesting. I guess I don't remember It's a Wonderful Life the way that other people do.
I mean, I know it. I've seen it a couple of times. I don't think I have the, like... it's not one of those Christmas movies I watch every year by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I think I've seen It's a Wonderful Life probably twice, maybe 3 times total.
Yeah, that's me too, and I think it's more in regards to, like, how the town backs up the main characters, so to speak.
Yeah, as opposed to robbing them blind, spoiler alert. They actually, it's I can kind of see what they were going with that, where they learn the value of the family and all that good stuff. And there's some cool stuff in this script as well. And we'll go ahead and kick off with the chalk gag, which said that Rudolph's red nose is not alcohol related. Sure it isn't, Rudolph. Sure it isn't.
Don't drink and fly.
Mm-hmm. I do like the couch gag, though. This one, it features the Simpsons running into their living room, and then it looks like probably Homer's hands actually pick up the living room as if it were a snow globe, and he shakes it, and then he gets like a ooh as snowflakes start to fall.
And I actually thought it was really cute. Like Maggie inside the snow globe starts clapping, and everyone's so happy looking, and it was just a nice little touch.
It was a good Christmas couch gag, for sure.
Yeah.
Still funny, but a little bit heartfelt at the same time. And it was drawn, which gives it the art. So there you go. Trifecta before they even get through the credits.
Oh my goodness.
Art, heart, and smart, baby.
Yeah. Sometimes fart.
I'm going to go ahead and give a trigger warning right now to anybody that has worked in retail, because this one definitely got me. We see that Homer and Marge are driving through the snowy streets of Springfield, and Homer's actually struggling to get the heater working. He technically makes it work, but it starts blowing snow into the car. The part that triggers me, though, is actually when Marge points out, Homer, why do you always save all of your Christmas shopping for Christmas Eve? The stores are so packed.
Oh, yeah. That can be a big trigger for a lot of us, especially if you worked at places that were open on Christmas.
You are the scum of the earth if you come in on Christmas Eve right before closing and are angry in any way, shape, or form with the limited stock that a store has. Just so you know, that's on you, not on the store. I can't tell you how many times when I worked retail, people would come in, literally, we'd close at like 6 on Christmas Eve, and people would come in at like 5:45 and be like, what do you mean you don't have this deal that you've been advertising for months in stock?
I think it's interesting that we're doing another Christmas episode at the Try and Save.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is really fun. Obviously, that is very heavily featured in the episode Marge Be Not Proud. It's the store where Bart actually steals Bone Storm. And
get it to him or you're going to go to hell.
That's true. I'll just go ahead and say, while I do like this episode is no Marge Be Not Proud. Like, I feel like in some ways that Christmas episode almost set the bar like too high for all other Christmas episodes that follow it.
Maybe so. Only time will tell. I think we got, quite a few more seasons to get through.
Very true. We have a lot of Christmas offerings ahead. Right now, though, speaking of saving time, Homer doesn't have time to park legally, and not only does he take up one handicap spot, but he actually parks across 3 of them at once.
Well, then when he gets out of the car, he's walking with the limp. Mm-hmm. He's trying to sell that he's handicapped, and Marge kind of gives him a weird look and then looks at the parking spots.
And again, even if he were injured in some way, maybe you take one, but he clearly almost has to put effort into making his car stretch across all 3.
I've seen people park in handicap that take up 1.5 to 2 spots on numerous occasions, so I got the joke, but they just went a little overboard with it, which is what the Simpsons do.
For sure. When the Simpsons parents really walk into the Try and Save, I guess Bart might still be banned from there. I don't know. Either way, they were shopping for the kids. But they walk in is exactly what you expect. A retail nightmare. Lines everywhere, people grabbing stuff everywhere, trying to hustle and bustle their way through the rush. But Homer actually has another pretty ingenious scheme for Homer. I mean, as evil as this might be, it definitely is intelligent. Because he actually walks over to the intercom system and announces that Register 9 has now been opened, and immediately a bunch of people rush to the register where Homer is acting as the sales clerk. Only whenever people bring toys that his kids or his own children would enjoy, he just makes a claim like, oh, sorry, this has been recalled, or we're out of these.
Oh, but
Register 9 is now closed. And Homer,
At least he pays.
He does stuff money into the register for the stuff that he takes, so he's not entirely evil. He's more of a chaotic evil. Maybe a chaotic neutral. I don't know. Somewhere
chaotic lawful. That makes no sense.
So Homer gets away with a bunch of stuff, and he leaves a lot of people who spent the time fighting through the aisles left with nothing on Christmas Eve, which is pretty rough.
I mean, you said so yourself. It's their fault for going out on Christmas Eve.
I think when the Simpsons parents get home, you're not wrong. I mean, or I wasn't wrong when I said that earlier, but I think that the Simpsons here actually had another case of predicting the future in a small way, because when the parents arrive home, Bart and Lisa are actually sitting in front of the fireplace, which is blocked by the TV displaying a image of a video of a fireplace. And that is something that I know has become much more popular in recent years. Like, they used to sell DVDs and Blu-rays of just like hours of fires burning, and now there's multiple options on Netflix where if you want to have a fire burning in your living room on your TV, you can have like one that has sound, one that, you know, it's like crackling wood noises, one that plays music, or one that's like completely silent. Like there's multiple options. I'm pretty sure you can even choose what type of wood you want to see burned, which is just kind of crazy to me, especially when you think about the fact that many people probably choose this option while there's an actual fireplace in their home.
Well, I want to know, like, if this is more popular in the South where it doesn't really get cold enough to use your fireplace. Like, I wonder if the Northerners still use this app or program on Netflix instead of using an actual fireplace. But I guess there's less houses burning down or trees and presents burning down when you do it that way. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, you're not wrong, though, about that, because, I mean, it's February now. Like, it's like the third day of February, maybe fourth day of February. And it was 85 degrees on Sunday. Like, that's a lot, dude. That's a lot.
And tomorrow we might have our first day of ice.
And that, 3 days removed for what it's worth. And just for all of our international listeners, 85 degrees Fahrenheit is 29.5 degrees Celsius. So
that's so sky high.
It's really, really hot for February, dude. Like, and again, to your point, we're going to actually be freezing. I think our prediction is to get to 28 degrees tomorrow, which is -2 degrees Celsius, which makes me not understand Celsius at all, for what it's worth. But regardless, the kids are very excited for Christmas. They, in fact, Marge is helping get in the spirit because she made Christmas tree-shaped cookies for the girls and bloody spearheads for Bart.
Cool.
And I love that he does a fake stabbing of himself. And for what it's worth, since we're a podcast and not a visual show, just in case you didn't catch it, they are the exact same shape. It's just that Bart's have a red dye on the end to look like blood, and Lisa and Marge's are dyed green. And I assume Homer ate his before Marge had time to ice them.
Well, I mean, that's some extra love right there, though.
It's a really sweet...
thinking.
Yeah, it really is sweet in a weird way.
Yeah.
But Lisa's also really excited because they've got a new tree this year that's just perfect, especially since their old aluminum one was so fake.
I couldn't agree more. From now on, it's plastic all the way.
And you get a boing as Marge pulls one of the limbs and it just springs right back into place. But right then, there's actually a clatter and commotion heard from the roof. And remember, Rich, it's Christmas Eve. Could that be who I think it is? Could it be? And we see the kids rush to the window where immediately a bunch of reindeer followed by a sled come crashing into the ground. Of course, startling the kids because they think for a moment they may have just seen Santa die. But no, it's actually Homer who comes following the sled.
Whoa!
Only he gets caught up in the lights he was apparently adjusting or hanging or doing something to, and he's stuck hanging from his ankles, dangling on the side of the house.
I picture that he's literally just now putting up the Christmas lights.
What is the point of that the day before? Like, that's just, that's so not, I would just go bah humbug mode at that point.
Well, I just assume because they waited for the last minute for the gifts, and then I also assume that they're going to leave the lights up until February.
Probably. You're not wrong there either. If you go with green, you can technically celebrate all the way through St. Patrick's Day.
Ooh.
Or hell, if you go with green, you could probably go all the way through April 20th. But for now, the kids are getting anxious to open presents, and Bart is ridiculously good at being able to shake his presents and identify what's inside. It's actually really a fun scene. Bart and Lisa are both under the tree together. Hocus pocus, mucus pucus, my powers of deduction tell me you are getting a handmade sweater. Possibly yellow.
Mom, make him stop.
And then Marge comes in. Bart, you put down that yellow sweater. I love that joke so much.
But he even got the color right. I enjoyed when Homer took them outside to look at the lights, I thought. And Bart went, it's craptacular. Like I loved that line. I don't know what it was about that. It just delivered so perfectly.
Craptacular is a most outrageously radical 90s line in the best way, or most bodacious way, if you will.
There you go.
Yeah, but craptacular sounds right out of the 90s. Right out of the 90s. So Marge tells them all to knock it off. They can't open any presents until 7 a.m. the next morning, and she's taking all of their alarm clocks because she doesn't want anybody cheating so that they can actually spend Christmas as a family for once.
Hello?
And right on cue, as Marge talks about spending time with family, Abe shows up and starts knocking, but everybody just hides and pulls down the shutters, which is both hilarious and so sad. Poor Grandpa.
Very, very sad.
But at least he'll be very, very happy later in the episode. So Bart is not giving up, though. He's still determined to get up as early as possible and get those presents, so he comes up with a plan. He drinks 12 full glasses of water so that his bladder will act as an alarm clock.
Smart thinking.
I do like, though, like, Lisa's like, Bart, you didn't invent that. Native Americans did that long before you ever did.
She says Indians.
Oh, and
then
Bart actually says, like, it always comes back to the Indians.
Yeah. And again, like you already pointed out, this is the late 90s where that's what people still said at that time.
Yeah, it was just the vernacular that was in use at the moment.
Yeah.
And yeah, now it's definitely the politically correct thing to say Native Americans instead of Indians. But ultimately, I mean, there's still Cowboys and Indians is still a game that, you know, like you'll find references to. And like, I mean, it's part of history. It is what it is.
I mean, sure.
No, I don't mean that. Like the way you said that makes me sound like I sounded like a douche there. I want to say very
like
much that
slavery just happened.
We did real shitty things to the Native Americans. I just meant for like the references of this purpose. I don't think like, especially with it being Lisa. Like, think about that. Like, if any character on the show is going to be progressively forward thinking, it would have been Lisa. And even at that time, they felt that her character would use the word Indian. That's all I meant by that.
That was a much better explanation.
But yeah, you're right. That did sound super shitty. And like, yeah, bad things happen.
It is what it is. History, right?
History kind of sucks, bro. It's the truth.
Yep.
Let's not let it repeat itself is the goal, but that's tough when your leadership is aimed that direction.
All I can say is it is what it is. Oh, but I'm...
Way to bring that back
and now
around.
We're all depressed.
I really like this moment where Bart actually is on his knees praying, but not to God, to Santa. And he promises that he won't do anything bad between now and when he wakes up.
And then he stumps his elbow on his little corner desk and tackles the desk for some reason.
I thought it would have been funnier if he would have just been like, damn, or something like that there. I don't know. A good old Raphael.
He said he wouldn't do anything bad, so it's much more worse for him to like break his corner desk and tackle it over.
I guess so. Yeah, I felt like cursing would have been also funny, but what do I know? I'm not a Simpsons writer.
There you go.
Bart's plan might actually work a little bit better than he had hoped, because as there is a slow drip on the bathroom tap in the hallway, it actually triggers Bart to have a dream that basically just reinforces his desire to pee. Like, he's running through a river and everybody's playing with water, everybody's splashing, things are dripping.
Seems maybe a Stampy, I don't know.
There's a lot of water themed things happening. Doesn't Stampy like spray water out of his trunk?
Yeah, if it's Stampy, but yeah, there's an elephant in the background spraying water, so I just assumed it was an elephant that Bart knew.
It would make sense that he would dream about his pet.
Or, it's the elephant from the wedding a few episodes ago.
Maybe. That's more relevant, I guess, or more recent, but maybe it's all the same. Maybe that was Stampy.
I wish I had an elephant.
For now, though, Bart's plan works. At 5:04 a.m., he wakes up alone, and after about a 2-minute pee, he is very relieved, both that he is now not full of urine and also able to open his Christmas presents.
I love the bit where he's like, perfect plan, and he's all proud of himself when he wakes up, but then he starts walking to the bathroom and like, we all know that pain very well.
True story.
But I also noticed that when he left the bathroom, he left the light on, so I guess the Simpsons leave the bathroom light on at night. Some families do that. I don't.
Yeah, I would hate that, because it, like, wakes you up if you have to pee in the middle of the night. Like, I mean, like, more, like, not that you don't actually walk to the bathroom.
It's harder for you to sleep.
Yeah, like, I don't want to, like, be that woken up.
Yeah.
So, Bart decides that even though it's not 7, and his family's not there, he's still going to go ahead and open his presents, though the commentary does point out that they intentionally drew it in a way that you could assume Bart was actually going to repackage up his presents. Like, the way he opened each present, he did so very carefully and very neatly so that he could theoretically retape them up.
I don't understand him wanting to open them before the family's there, though. That's very, very sad.
It's very selfish.
Yeah, I guess that's the point.
It kind of fits into the whole concept of this episode in a lot of ways. I actually want to back up just slightly since I took the time to get the commentary on this one. I missed one of the points in the dream. When you see the crowd of spectators in the stands in Bart's dream, those are actually drawn to look like several of the Simpsons animators.
Oh, okay. I was trying to figure out. I was like, I don't know if they're random, but I don't recognize any of them.
Yep, that's what that was all about.
Okay.
So Bart is thrilled under the tree to find that he has received the Inferno Buster 3000. I knew Santa wouldn't have time to check that list twice. And again, almost on cue, as he talks about how he basically got away with being naughty, he starts playing with his new toy, and it actually like drives around, lights up, and shoots water. Unfortunately, however, whenever it does so, it drives directly into the tree, and somehow, I guess, with the water and the electricity and the plastic, it turns into an inferno and just starts to melt.
Uh-oh.
Bart's actually pretty quick thinking on this one, though. He runs to the kitchen and gets the water hose thing that you use to, like, wash dishes, which has the most ridiculously long hose on it. Because mine barely reaches the corner of the sink.
Yeah.
There are times where I wish that I could wash the corner of the sink with that thing, and it's, like, not quite there. But he runs all the way from the kitchen through the living room and just about halfway across the room towards the tree where he is stopped short and the spray of water falls inches from the flames.
Oh, who designed this house?
The animators point out that they're lucky that in this instance the tree just melted into a pile as opposed to catching the curtains and house on fire while the family's asleep upstairs.
Oh.
But that's exactly what happens. You just see this kind of oozing puddle. Like, it all melts in together, and, like, you can kind of still make out there's presents, but it's all, like, almost if like, the tree was like a cookie and the presents were the chocolate chips.
Ooh, good description, Miles.
Thanks. So, Bart decides he's going to try to hide the evidence. He drags the entire disc of melted mess, out, and he buries it under the snow, which he does mention, like, snow hides everything.
And right before that happens, you see Marge and Homer waking up. And I like the exchange that they have when Marge is telling Homer she hears a noise, but Homer's still making, like, similar noises to what the tree made when it was melting. And then Marge falls back asleep when Homer decides not to get up, and she barely makes a little bit of a noise when she goes back to sleep.
Knock it off!
Homer's like, knock it off! That was a funny, quick little bit there.
And yeah, Marge, basically, it's like the sound of her head hitting the pillow.
Yeah.
Very, very light. So right about the time that Bart is getting done walking back into the house and it looks like he's trying to sneak back up to his room, the rest of the family comes downstairs and of course discovers that their tree is entirely gone. And Lisa actually notices Bart and asks, like, Bart, what were you doing down here?
I saw a burglar come and he took all your presents and even the tree.
Bart goes into story mode, but I do like right before that point, like, he actually takes a moment and you can see there's this sense of guilt on his face already, and like he's weighing this decision and he's looking at the faces of his family who are very clearly upset. I mean, Homer's on the verge of tears. He's even like, who stole Christmas, or where did Christmas go? And he's like doing his like what Christmas, like his whiny Homer mode, which is hilarious. But Bart sees this and he can't bring himself to come forward with the truth, so he decides to go with the lie.
There's a split second there where, like, with the look in his face, you think he's about to tell him what he actually did, but then he goes in the complete opposite direction and fabricates this tale of everything being stolen.
I do really enjoy, though, Homer is in his crying mode. He's like, can we skip church?
Homer is very much a child in this scene, but when he does his, where's Christmas? Lisa, where's Christmas? Like, that might be my favorite delivery of a line in this episode. I don't know what it is about that one, but, like, I just love the way Homer delivers that line.
You're totally not wrong. Like, that's a great Homer moment. It's really sweet, and it also is very fitting to the characters that Homer, the parent, acts like the child and asks Lisa, the kid, where Christmas went. Like, well, Lisa's 8.
It's all right. They have a good dynamic there.
So, what else do you do when Christmas is stolen? You call the police, and Chief Wiggum arrives. And I like there's an interaction where Chief Wiggum is trying to interview Bart to get some information. Now, what did this Christmas thief look like?
Well, he had a glass eye, a wooden leg, a big scar on his cheek.
Yeah, and anything unusual?
I think he says like 2 hooked hands.
Yeah, he does. And it's funny, though, because obviously everything about
and a big sack with a $sign on it.
Yeah, classic on that one, yeah. So the police actually walk out and, who is it that says there's no easy way to say it, kids? God hates us. Is that Homer?
Yeah, it has to be Homer that said that. Marge wouldn't say that.
Yeah, it's a very funny line too, though, because like it sounds like Homer's going to try to go into parent mode. Well, there's no easy way to say it, kids. God hates us. I'll also point out, according to IMDb on this one, as Chief Wiggum leaves the house, he's actually carrying a doll of Binky, which Binky is a character from the Life in Hell comic strip by Matt Groening.
It did point that out, but I didn't notice it there. I noticed it at the end of the episode.
Maybe that's what it was. I was just reading from the IMDb page.
But IMDb does also point out, which I noticed this in the episode and then read it, which confirmed my suspicions here. But you've got Wiggum, Lou, and Eddie all in the same shot in the house, and the camera doesn't really change angles. It just pans from right to left to go back to the Simpsons. And then you see Wiggum and Lou leave, but you never see Eddie leave. Where's Eddie, Miles? Where's Eddie?
Ooh, undercover in the Simpsons' home. That's how they found out.
Exactly.
So, I think it's Marge who points out, hey, since when is Christmas just about presents? Or no, it's Homer on this one because of the delivery of the line. When is Christmas about present? Aren't we forgetting the true meaning of this day? The birth of Santa?
Yeah, it's weird. These 2 lines that I only like 75% remember. It's the only 2 that doesn't have somebody's name attached to them in the script. So.
You're right. I'm sure there'll be more in this one. They're getting lazy with the scripts on this. They just know the characters well enough. I guess we should probably too.
There's a lot of characters on this show.
Lisa tries to suggest something nice they could do by going over to Grandpa's to cheer up the old folks, because that will make them feel better.
Oh, okay. But they'll have to be pretty damn miserable to make me happy.
And immediately as they're passing the Flanders home, you can see the jealousy come over Homer because he sees that they're having a wonderful Christmas inside their living room, presents and love and all of the things that you would want from a Christmas morning. So instead of looking sad and lonely, or sad and homeless, or Christmasless, not homeless, but Homer gets an idea. Hey, kids, smile and pretend like we're cross-country skiing.
And they do a good job pulling that off, I think.
I think it's a really good visual gag for sure, but it's pretty quickly foiled when the Hibberts come by because they're on snowmobiles, which is one, way more fun than cross-country skis, and two, also gives them the vantage point to see that the Simpsons do not have cross-country skis.
And I like that as they drive off, Homer says something along the lines of, "It's not as much fun as it looks like, kids."
Nothing could be as fun as that looks.
Lisa with the good joke there.
I actually got to drive a snowmobile once when I was a kid, and it was an absolute blast, but you can go on YouTube right now, and snowmobile people are fucking nuts, because they'll drive that shit across, like, ponds, and just, like, skip across it, like, driving across freezing water, and I remember, like, we were somewhere close to a pond, and I'm like, I'm not even going out on the ice, like, just, like, I'm good, we'll play in the snow, because, like, I had just seen the movie The Good Son, I think it's called, with Macaulay Culkin,
no.
And the Hobbit kid, the one from Lord of the Rings, that I like, Elijah
Sean
Wood.
Astin?
No, Elijah Wood. Well, yeah, there's basically a scene where, like, a kid falls under the ice in that, and, like, it's, like, super, it's, like, I'm like, oh my god, that would be so terrible, because, you know, you'd be so cold, and then also, it would suck.
All right, Miles, like, it's good to know that even you have your limits.
Occasionally, yeah.
If only there was a Simpsons visual gag that could teach me not to drive across ice.
You gotta learn sometimes. Sometimes we all have our own learning tools. Mine happens to be a cartoon.
Well, and the thing about the Hibberts is they all have their own snowmobiles, too. It's not just one.
I mean, he is a doctor, so I imagine he makes some good money, but still, snowmobiles are not cheap either.
No.
But everywhere they go, they're seeing everyone else is having a wonderful Christmas, except for them, of course. But Milhouse even is, like, showing off to Bart that he got a Tickle Me Krusty.
Hey, kid, get your finger out of there.
This is obviously a reference to the Tickle Me Elmo doll that was, at this time, like, the most ridiculous thing. Like, there was Beanie Babies, which kind of became, like, a big fad in the 90s where people were, like, way crazy about getting them and they would sell out everywhere. But then, like, Tickle Me Elmo put that on, like, steroids, because I remember at the time there was Tickle Me Elmo selling for, like, at least $1,000, probably more places, on eBay, which was also very new at the time.
That's the toy that launched that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, Jingle All the Way. I love that movie.
Which was
Turbo
about this
Man.
time as well. It's Turbo time!
Yeah, that's a good film.
It's a highly underrated Christmas movie.
I like it. Yeah, for real. It's funny because, like, again, it kind of exploits a lot of the things, like, I would hate about working at retail at Christmas, but they did such a good job of making, like, them laughable.
And it cut the search short on the kid that would play Anakin Skywalker. And I'm sure he would live on to play a lot of more, good roles over the years.
Was that movie before or after he was Anakin? That was probably before.
I'm pretty sure it was like a year or two before.
Otherwise, it would have cost way too much money to get him, probably.
Probably.
Well, speaking of spending a lot of money, when Homer decides that he's fed up with this Christmas nonsense, he heads to the only place in town that cheers him up, Moe's Tavern.
Sounds like you're having a rough Christmas. You know what I blame? I blame this on the breakdown of society.
Yeah, you're right, Moe. You're always Moe.
Homer, you look, your house is on TV.
You take that back, Barney.
No, he's right, Homer.
Hey, you stay out of this, old man. And Homer is drunk as a skunk, clearly not even being able to really comprehend what's happening. And then we see that Kent Brockman is in fact on TV at the Simpsons home, where he's telling the story and speaking to Marge. So when you realized Christmas was ruined, how did you feel?
How do you think I felt?
Absolutely devastated. And then he turns into the camera. Absolutely devastated. The words of a heartbroken mother. He quotes himself quoting her, which I think is really funny. And then this line is honestly, I'm torn between this and one other to be my favorite, and it's so stupid, but I love it so much. But this is Kent sign off. So while you're home today eating your sweet, sweet holiday turkey, I hope you'll all choke just a little bit.
But then Homer shows up at home, and he seems like completely fine when he was just shit-faced drunk just the scene before this one.
Don't drink and drive, kids.
Yeah, like, they covered that up pretty quick there.
Simpson, Homer Simpson, he's about to hit a chestnut tree.
Ah!
But yeah, so Homer does show up, and he's, the real miracle here is that he's somehow sober. Marge claims that there's a miracle, and it's true. Homer's sobered up on his drive over from Moe's, damn it. From Mars. He drove home from Mars drunk. But
Marge, I don't want to hear any more about that silver polish.
But no, they actually see that the entire town of Springfield is in their home, and they have
That is a miracle.
They have opened their hearts to the Simpsons. They're all donating whatever they can, and this is the other line that's tied for my favorite of the episode, because every family is dropping cash in, and some is change, but some is checks and cash. But then you see Mr. Burns, and he has a great line here as he drops in an inanimate object.
Does anybody have change for a button?
Way to be helpful. Lisa decides that she's going to kind of uplift the Christmas spirit in the room, and she starts playing Christmas jingles on the piano right as Homer is kind of having a teary moment.
Wow, this really restores your faith in... Lisa, do you have to practice that stupid song now?
And even their Christmas tree gets replaced because the Flanders had a 30-foot Christmas tree and decided that the Simpsons could have the top of theirs.
Doesn't Homer walk over to him and say, "Thanks, Ted"? I swear he says, "Thanks, Ted" there.
Oh, I didn't catch... I heard Ned, but I may have been, my brain may have been preconditioned to hear Ned.
Yeah, I need somebody to double check me and hit us up on Twitter and let us know.
Yeah, do it. But things are really not going... everybody's really happy about this except for Bart, who you can see is just feeling really, really shitty about the situation. You can really... The animation did a good job of, the guilt that he's displaying through his facial features and body language. And Lisa isn't helping the situation.
Oh, and it's about to get worse.
Lisa actually brings some orphans over, and immediately Bart is like, "Oh God, I don't like where this is going." But they're wearing rags, and they pull off their hat, or one of them pulls off their hat and has a single dollar that they want to give to Bart. They've been saving up.
Oh, how sweet. And Bart doesn't want it.
He doesn't, but that's because Bart knows the truth.
I feel like Lisa kind of knows too. I can never shake that feeling in this episode. Lisa is provoking Bart. She doesn't ever truly go along with the story. I don't know what.
I kind of feel that. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. There's a couple of places where it almost feels like she's lightly jabbing to test and see, or almost she's testing a scientific theory.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So Moe donates his tip jar, which is actually very out of character as well. Another miracle. And they do some math and figure out that the donations add up to over $15,000.
15,000 Missoulians. Holy shamola. What are you going to do with all that kablingy?
And they did point out, I'm not sure who it was on the commentary, but Missoulians was actually the name for people, I think, in the town, like Mizzou, Missouri, maybe? They were nicknames for a town where I think it was maybe the writer that where he grew up. But just a random fact there.
Kablingy. I forgot that was Krusty. Stupid script.
At first, they are like kind of like, "What are you gonna do with all the money?" And they're like, "Oh, well, we'll just replace what we lost." But the town's like, "No, go crazy, get something awesome, do something fun."
You only live once.
Hey, speak for yourself. I like that line. That's a poo, and I love that line because obviously in his faith there's reincarnation, which is really fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's really fun if you had a good previous life.
Well, that's not true. So I didn't mean that the incarnation itself was fun. I just meant that made this joke really funny.
I know.
It's a good interaction.
I was playing off your wordage, Miles. Oh, you're a yellow sweater.
Hey, put down that yellow sweater.
But anyway,
they decide that they're going to buy a new car.
I like Homer's line to do that.
What was that?
Yeah, he's the Marge kids. Let's go buy some happiness.
And they go to the car dealership, Cliff's Car Chalet, where they're standing next to a red car that has a price tag of $12,000 on it.
Is this car $15,000?
It is now, and you can see him leaning over and wiping it off with his elbow. And because of your loss, folks, I'll throw in the undercoating for $490.
What a deal! I'd be a sucker not to get it.
And this is where you can really tell Bart's feeling guilty, because he's like, "Dad, I don't know, maybe we should give this money to charity or something." Ow!
Ow!
Oh, I'm sorry, I jabbed you with my pin.
Ow! You're still doing it!
I know. Salesman's trying to shut the boy up.
Yeah. Absolutely. But my thing is, this car looks almost identical to their current car, just red.
But red, yeah, you're
like
100% right.
It doesn't look that fancy.
No, I completely agree. It's like, okay, I guess if that's what you want to get.
It looks like a $12,000 car.
Sure.
In 1997.
Maybe they could have talked them down to 10 if they were better at negotiating, but instead they talked themselves up to 15.
Oh, and then actually had to pay another $500. So they're actually spending money now.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, now they're out of pocket.
Yep.
So they're off in the car, and Homer's actually kind of driving like an ass. He's running like real tight behind a big truck, and Marge is getting upset with him, like telling him to slow down. But he's arguing, and at a certain point, he actually has to slam the brakes, and he goes spinning out across of a pond, very similar to what we were talking about earlier. The family does get out safe, and they're all very relieved that it wasn't worse than what it was. But at that point, again, right on cue, as so many things seems to occur in this episode, right when Marge says that they're safe and everyone's all right, the car starts to fall into the ice.
And then it sinks all the way to what you can presume will be the bottom, explodes underwater, and then the pieces fly out of the water, land all around them, and they're on fire, which I don't understand, but it just makes it more fun.
Some of our younger listeners might not know that in 1997, cars were actually allergic to water. They had very volatile reactions, so you couldn't even drive in the rain or kablooey. Yeah.
Oh, those dang $12,000 red cars.
That's it, man. We made it through some tough, weird years there in the 90s.
It reminds me of the Futurama gag where Bender's smoking a cigar underwater.
Yeah.
Zoidberg goes, "That makes even less sense." Or I think that's what happens.
For sure. So the next day, we see they wake up again and go downstairs, the family that is, and this time, though, Bart is just becoming overwhelmed with guilt. I think it was actually Bart's, slumped in the corner, where the tree was, holding himself, and the rest of the family comes downstairs. And Bart finally fesses up.
There was no burglar. I accidentally burned up the tree and the presents.
Why, you
I'm really sorry.
Why, you little... Homer starts
Lisa,
choking
no!
out. Oh yeah, it's Lisa starts choking out Bart, and then Homer comes over to correct her and do it better. And then I love that even Marge
Your
gets
hits
in
are
on
way
this.
too weak.
Honestly, I can't really tell if Marge is trying to break them up or get more in on the strangling, but I like to think for the sake of the family being together, she's also helped strangling.
He would die. I think it's just showing that they're all fighting amongst themselves.
And at this very moment, Kent Brockman shows up with the news crew, and he's tapping on their front room window. So they change their choking Bart out to, like, disguise it as a family hug.
Kent Brockman here for a follow-up with Springfield's favorite hard luck family, the Simpsons. Folks, any words for the Christmas thief if he's watching?
Yes, Kent. Hello, jerk. We may never find you, and we should probably all stop looking. But one thing's for sure. You do exist.
Strong words, strong, bewildering words.
Unfortunately, though, for Bart's sake and the Simpsons family at this point, when Kent Brockman's crew set up, they used a high, heat-emitting light to light the scene, even though it was daytime. But regardless, it was hot enough that it actually melted the snow in the very spot that Bart had hid the evidence.
Uh-oh. I mean, have you ever been under the lights? I know you've been under the lights before, Miles. Those things are hot.
Yeah, they are very hot. Very, very hot. And it's very funny, though, because they actually do, like, a callback to the line earlier that Kent was talking about when he was trying to be, like, sympathetic towards the Simpsons, and he was talking about, like, little Bart won't get his fire truck, and little Lisa won't get her sweater, and little Homer won't get his summer sausage box, or whatever it was. So when they uncover it, they're gasping, like, it's little Bart's fire truck! And little Lisa's sweater. And little Homer's Cajun sausage.
And they try to explain their way out of it, which does not go well at all.
I do like whenever they're like, well, when did you know it? They're trying to, like, play it off as if they didn't know about it. But to be fair, they literally didn't know about it till moments earlier.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an awkward time to be found out.
And that's one of my trouble with this episode is that, like, I don't feel like they're angry at Bart long enough.
They get really mad at, like, the whole family and not really Bart.
Yeah.
Like, Bart should have almost been more demonized in this one, like, individually.
The scapegoat.
Right.
But yeah, they basically explain why they lied, because they said they didn't know up until a few moments ago, but then Bart points out that they've already spent, or Lisa does, that they've already spent all the town's money. And Marge is like, so you can see why we had to cover our tracks and lie, basically.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Like, I feel like they should definitely hunt him down more individually instead of just them. Because, yeah, they're kind of like they're not in the right, but they're not really that in the wrong. Like, they had almost no time to process that situation.
Yeah.
But everybody in town is absolutely pissed off. I do like Mo and Barney are chatting. So this was all a scam. And on Christmas.
Yeah, Jesus must be spinning in his grave.
And the poor orphans watching TV through the glass on a street corner, like through a shop.
We gave them our vitamin money.
And the clerk comes out, hey, you chew, you lousy freeloaders. Come back when you get some parents. Oh.
That guy is usually in the Springfield Retirement Center. So
Old
is
Jewish
he retired
or
is he working? I can't figure out what his deal is.
Maybe he just likes to get out of the house around the holidays, so he picks up some seasonal shifts.
Maybe so.
Kent Brockman has his closing line here. In my long career, I've had some pretty shabby things, but this putrid fraud outstinks them all.
And cut.
I just want to thank you folks so much. This has turned out to be really a great story for me.
At least Kent's not angry at him.
Right? He's thrilled.
And then they decide to go to everyone's favorite Christmas dinner spot in town, apparently.
Which I'm surprised that Krusty Burger's open on Christmas.
It's probably their busiest day of the year.
And there's actually isn't there a line there? But they're all
That's
there
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like,
they're all there to make fun
or
like
there.
to shame the the Simpsons about Christmas.
Well, no, they don't know they're there yet. They're all in line to eat. That's what I'm saying. And then when the Simpsons come in, they all turn and they're like, "Oh, look, it's them!" And then they all leave.
Yep, you're right. There's also another really funny joke here with the concept that they don't even know that they're there, because we see from the behind-the-counter perspective, the two fast food employees are spitting in the burgers, and you kind of assume that they're doing it because it's the Simpsons. But then as they're like mid-spit, they're like, who are they or whatever. They don't have a clue who they are.
Yeah, and then they continue to spit.
Yeah. So they're just doing that to everybody. And even Miss Hoover, like in class, Lisa's trying to ask a question, and Miss Hoover's like, "I refuse to teach you until you pay me back the money you owe me, Lisa. In fact, you need to turn your desk around."
And she does it halfway,
all the way. So she's facing directly into Ralph now.
Hi, liar.
And that got a huge laugh from me, from the commentary team, and even Nancy Cartwright pointed out, the voice of Ralph Wiggum, that Ralph is so great of a character because a lot of times he gets the biggest laughs with just like 2 words, and it's like all it takes, and it just like absolutely, cracks up the room, and he's such a fun character for that reason.
Money every time.
If you're getting paid by the word, that's probably her most profitable character.
Well, if you're getting paid by the word, it would be the least profitable character.
Yeah, I said that backwards, but you know what I meant. Aw, I have to drive all the way to the studio to say, "Hi, liar!" Can't we phone this one in?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, and even at work, though, this one's actually really funny, but also terrifying, because Homer, the safety inspector at the nuclear power plant, he comes running out with alarms going off, screaming about how there's been a leak, and everybody is just like, everybody's just like, yeah, sure, we'll believe you, as the gas starts to seep in.
He was right.
Back at home, it doesn't end because now they're having to answer hate mail.
You'll all get yours in hell, you lying, thieving, blanking blankers. Sincerely, Mo.
Oh, great. Now we have to send him a card.
I know you're used to getting hate mail, but I'm not.
So Homer is completely comfortable in this moment, but obviously Marge is not really digging it. But she has a plan to get the money back. They owe $15,000, and Homer's like, "We tried everything." But Marge points out, maybe not everything. And we get an immediate cut to Marge playing Jeopardy, where she's doing quite poorly. She's like down like $5,800. I think personally this is an interesting joke because this feels a lot like a Family Guy joke to me.
Well, this would be around that time, but again, we've been citing them a lot in this particular episode. Did you read the note on IMDb about this? Because I completely forgot about this Jeopardy rule.
No, I did read that it was actually Alex Trebek that did the voice of Alex Trebek in this, which is very funny. And it's also hilarious that they're holding Marge accountable to pay the money that she was down. But what did you read?
Well, the thing is, Miles, is that like it's when the cutaway happens, there's the 2 contestants that are in the positive and Marge in the negative while the Final Jeopardy song is playing. And if you're negative money going into Final Jeopardy, you automatically don't get to play Final Jeopardy.
Sure.
So, yeah, that was a little bit of an oversight, or just it makes it a lot funnier that she's still like so bad and poor and doing that terribly in Final Jeopardy. But yes, I do enjoy the Trebek part where he's like, "Marge, I believe you owe me $5,800.
And he's got goons.
Yeah. Run!
When I said it's like a Family Guy joke, first of all, I'll say that this episode was in December of 97 and that Family Guy didn't debut till 1999. But I didn't necessarily mean it in a bad way. I just meant that this was a very quick cutaway. And like if they did it all the time, I would find it annoying. But I thought this was actually very funny and well used. Like it fit And it honestly, let's be real, what it really is the setup for the Simpsons reset, because we're getting very close to the wire here, and they have to have a way to get everything back into place. So when they come home from Jeopardy, the Simpsons find that the townspeople are actually robbing them, taking everything they own. You can see that the wall is discovered from all of the furniture, the photo of the boat behind the couch, which is also gone, the TV, all of it. And the town points out that they really didn't like hating the Simpsons, so they figured they'd just get even instead, which is sweet in a weird way.
Yeah, well, when they first arrive outside, they're like, hey, nobody's mad anymore. They're all happy. And you're like, what? I wonder what's going on. And they're all robbing them blind. And
it still ends in a very Simpsons way, because all the Simpsons are left with is one washcloth, which they immediately start fighting over. And Marge kind of cuts him off and is like, haven't you learned anything? Give me that washcloth. It's mine anyway. Which I love. It's like Marge is a Simpson at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it like, for as rough as around the edges of this episode can be at times, like I really, really enjoy the ending with the credits on this, and she just starts running around the house with the washcloth, and you see that view from outside the home where you can see the silhouettes of all the family members running throughout the house, turning the lights on and having a good time with very little possessions.
Yeah, and they're still like, it's like the way they show affection to each other in an odd sort of way. Yeah, I'm with you on that, but that does bring us to the end of this.
That's when Wiggum gets his toy rabbit from. Yeah, that we were referencing
that was the object that he was taking from the Simpsons home.
Yeah, and Trebek even is leaving with some stuff in his hands.
Well, I mean, they owe him $5,800, Richie. That makes sense.
And I like when Krusty's coming down the stairs with all the meds and Otto's going up. He's like, if you're looking for the medicine cabinet, it's already been rummaged, or whatever he says.
Oh, and we missed a spot earlier when the Simpsons were like down on their luck, and they went, or maybe it was just Homer, but he went to the Springfield retirement castle, and like the old folks were all like on like happy as could be and dancing and spinning around because apparently they get special drugs on Christmas.
Yep, it's Christmas joy or whatever Grandpa said it was.
But that's going to bring us to the end of Miracle on Evergreen Terrace. Richie, do you or that book of yours have anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
There was something that I didn't remember in this episode, and I saw another description for it on that lovely website, IMDb, when Bart is opening all of his gifts early, and he opens a card from Aunt Selma, and he says, "Oh, Aunt Selma, always good for a fin," which I'd never really understood what that meant, but according to IMDb, a fin means $5 bill. But if you look at the shot, it looks like it's a $1 bill that he got from Aunt Selma. So I don't know where that came from. I'm not 100% certain. I went back and looked at it after I read that, and it looks like a $1 bill for the most part, but I kind of just let it go, saying, well, it could easily be a 5, and I'm just misseeing it. But when he said all good for a fin, that means $5 technically. So
a really well-worn fin.
I thought that was an interesting little bit there. I love sometimes when they do this with Bart, where they give him like an old-timey line where a 10-year-old should have no idea what it is, but he'll do that every once in a while, and I thought that was cool.
Quite a bit, yeah, you're absolutely right. I like that a lot.
But besides that, like I said previously, I feel like everybody should have been a lot more upset with Bart in this episode, and they kind of just gloss over the fact that he is the cause of everything in this, and they do that with mob mentality, so I guess it sways you to just be mad at all the Simpsons.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier, I agree. It felt like, I guess it was probably a timing issue, and ultimately Christmas episodes, I guess, are about family, so maybe that was why they went with that choice, but I'm kind of with you on that.
You can't always be mad at Bart, I guess.
Speaking of Christmas episodes, though, Matt Groening on the commentary spoke a lot about how he gets really nervous when they do Christmas episodes, because traditionally he doesn't think that TV Christmas episodes are good, which honestly surprises me, and I have to say I disagree with. I mean, we actually had our special at the beginning of this season during the holidays about the Christmas episodes that we enjoy watching, and I don't really understand why he has that opinion, but he did say at the end of the commentary on this one, and he was on the commentary for Marge Be Not Proud, that even though he was nervous going into them, he enjoyed the way that they came out.
If I remember correctly, I also enjoyed the one with Gary Coleman that's coming up, where they design that toy, and then they have to go around and be a Grinch and steal them all. I think I liked that Christmas episode.
If that's the one that I remember, it ends with like the tire burning at the end, I think, because they have to yeah, I like that one too. But
the Terminator style burning them down.
One other just interesting thing from the commentary, and this is more of like a theory than anything else, not a fact, but they talked about how there are some people in the Simpsons fandom community that believe that this is actually the last episode of the show shown out of order. And what they mean by that is it's kind of a fun ending to think about, if like this were the ending of the show itself. It would end with the Simpsons having nothing but each other, and that would be kind of in a weird way. And also, it's a Christmas episode, so you would have the very first episode tying it together to the very last episode. So it's a popular theory that this is the last episode of The Simpsons, and I would be cool if they ever did announce that. I think that's interesting, but as I have always said, if The Simpsons ever goes off the air, which may or may not happen one day, but if The Simpsons ever goes off the air, I always stand by the fact that I think the perfect ending would be to have a Christmas episode that ends with Bart, or the family getting ready to go to Bart's Christmas recital.
See, I kind of like this thought where this would be the last episode because they literally have nothing, but by the next episode, their whole house will be refurnished. So that's not going to logically make sense since they don't have any money.
With the exact same stuff. Like they would have, like how would they be able to get like the exact same couch, the exact same picture over the wall, all the same furniture in the kids' rooms? Like, yeah, like it makes a lot of sense, but I still love my idea, so I'm going to fight to the death for it. I hope I die before it comes true, but it's fine.
What if they just added one line at the end of this episode? There's like, "Oh crap, we're running late for the recital," and that's all they said. And then with the credits.
that would be perfect. Yeah, man, if only. But that didn't happen. But I think it's still a cool theory. Either way, I think it's a good episode. I really enjoyed Miracle on Evergreen Terrace. When I said I didn't like it as much as Marge Be Not Proud, that was not to say that it was not a good episode. And actually, this is an episode that I showed my 5-year-old nephew this last Christmas, and
teaching him to lie.
While he didn't necessarily get all of the enjoyment and the nuance, he still enjoyed things like he got very concerned when Christmas got ruined, and he thought it was funny when the car crashed.
Christmas.
Like, all of those things still connected with a child that was clearly younger than, like, the recommended age of the show, which I always find interesting because that's about when I started watching the show. You know, a little bit older than that, but not too far off. So, anyway, that's going to do it for this week's Best Darn Diddly Review Show. Follow us at Best Darn Diddly. That's DIDDLY.
Make sure you follow Miles at Mr. Most Days Off, and you can follow me at TheWiz_Kid23.
Also, come back next week. We've got a very special episode for you. Not because of anything we've done, but next week, Richie, is going to be the lowest ranked episode on IMDb that we have come across so far. It is a 5.0 out of 10, and we have not had a single other episode that has been rated lower than a 6 prior to now. So, a really big discrepancy. It's also the first episode of 1998, and it's called All Singing, All Dancing. It's a review show, and we'll be covering it next week.
This is only by coincidence, but my line to say right here, I was literally going to say, it'll be craptacular.
Perfect. And until next time, be cromulent to each other.